rather.
Oh, wow. You got to make sure you get it right, though.
Well, she might be my fairy godmother.
Well,
Um,
maybe.
maybe. Daniel, there's been quite a popular conversation on Twitter lately around a change in security.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was about, well, we've been able to apply two-factor authentication to our Twitter accounts,
Yeah.
and there's been a few methods available, but the lowest common factor has been a popular one that banks use in all sorts of places,
Yeah.
SMS. But there's a
Yes.
cost involved, and Twitter has said we're going to stop that unless you're paying us for the blue service. Then that's not an option for you. What have you seen around that, and what are your thoughts on security for Twitter in general? Twitter, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, the change, the change was, I think, precipitated by, and it was kind of talked about that there were services and stuff using Twitter in a way that it was charging and costing Twitter tens of millions of dollars to support, and it was basically for free for these services. And so partly it was a business decision, I believe, to say, well, you have to pay for Twitter Blue to be able to use SMS. Okay, so business decision, fine. Let's step back though and consider that two-factor authentication, I think, is a must. We've talked about it on the show. Two-factor authentication for every service you use is the way to go. However, SMS two-factor is actually the least secure when you compare it to using an application on your phone or a key fob, a secure key. It is the least secure method because I don't know if too many people know this, your phone number can be spoofed pretty easily, and other people can receive those SMS messages, which means they can go in and say, change my password or use that password, and it send them the text message and they can get in. And so it's actually the least secure. So my opinion actually is this actually makes things more secure. If you're forcing people to stop using SMS, it actually makes the platform more secure, because if they switch to a more secure method of two-factor authentication, then that's better for everybody. So we know that people are not being hacked as much. There is some conversation going on about what about those areas of the world or society or whatever that they rely on SMS and don't have data and such. And I get that, and I think that's that's a deeper conversation about how to fix that rather than fix Twitter. But someone asked, and I was trying to remember who it was, and maybe it was AC on Twitter, but asked, is there any other platform that does this, that makes you pay for SMS? And the answer is yes. And
Isn't
it's
it
in our
SMS
world.
itself?
No, but
Well, you guys have to
Microsoft.
pay for receiving them.
Yeah, but Microsoft does this.
Oh, does it?
So you have to have an Azure ADP one to use any other kind of settings beyond the defaults. And the defaults are application. Use the Authenticator app to use two-factor. So I'm pretty sure, I'm sure someone can jump in and correct me, but I'm pretty sure Azure AD requires you to have an Azure ADP one to allow SMS. But maybe that's wrong, and that's okay. I've been wrong before, but
No.
well, once. I'm just joking.
Was it on the
but
show?
does that make
Because,
sense?
we could go back
No,
and
no.
relive that moment.
Does that make sense, Daryl?
He was wrong.
Does my hot take on that make sense?
Yeah, I do. I know, yes, it does. I think it's important still to have security. I think it's also been an interesting awakening. I wouldn't say it's great change management, but it has nudged people along to realize if they haven't chosen a two-factor authentication program like Authenticator app or the Google equivalent or whatever, it's a good time to do that, to use that to manage your 2FA in multiple different platforms. Well, anyway, shall we kick on?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special edition of the 365 Message Center
Why is
show.
it special, Daniel?
Because today is President's Day
Oh,
in the U.S., it's a federal celebration, federal holiday, as well as Family Day in Canada. I think for almost everyone in Canada, except for maybe Quebec, maybe doesn't celebrate, but and maybe there's other holidays around the world,
well,
but
it is Tuesday here in New Zealand, and that's the day after Monday, which some people struggle with. So you made it to Tuesday.
Absolutely. So welcome everyone. And today is this is episode 273. We're so glad you're here. Love to see the chat that's happening before the show. People asking questions in chat. Make sure to jump into chat, or if you're watching this as a recording or listening on the audio podcast, jump into comments and ask questions or make comments. We'd love to see those every time. And hook up with us on socials. 365 MCS on all of the socials. We'd love to engage with you there, and make sure to share this episode out on Twitter and Insta and Facebook and TikTok and LinkedIn. All of those. Make sure you get that out there, and we'd love to engage with you when you do. So,
Indeed. It's good
how
to
are
have
you, Daryl?
conversations about
It is.
updates and the like. We know it varies from week to week what arrives and whether it captures your attention or not. Sometimes it's like, oh, there's nothing new and shiny, but it is telling us about something that we probably should prepare for. Other times it's full of stuff. Sometimes it tips the scale in the other direction, doesn't it, Daniel, where
Yeah.
it's announcing things that certainly haven't arrived yet, but certainly don't have a date. And it feels more
Yes.
like it's, why don't you just write a blog post for that? Why'd you drop it in the message center?
Yeah. But this week, we have some interesting, different topics really to cover. So kind of a little bit of all over the board, but one that we talked about pre-show last week, and we have a little bit
Yep.
more details. But anyway, let's punch into it. Let's dive in
Indeed.
and talk about profile cards. We had an update about profile cards a few weeks back, and here's another one.
Yeah. So that one a few weeks back, Daniel, that was about what was it? Praise.
Praise,
Showing
yeah.
praise on the cards, and they dialed that one back because based on feedback, it wasn't really well received, I guess, or that they're going to rethink how it works. This is about pronouns on profile cards in Microsoft Teams and Outlook on the web. MC515531. We had some good. I was going to say some pre-show comments, but we are joined by Fairy Geek Mother. So welcome, Fairy Geek Mother. It's good to have you here. We'll tell a bit about the pronouns update, which really is providing a way for us to add our pronouns if we choose so. It's a setting that admins will be able to turn on. It'll arrive in your tenant, but it'll be off by default. Admins can turn it on, and then it is an option for people to add pronouns if they wish. The pronouns will appear on the contact card when you hover over a person's name or profile photo in Teams and Outlook. I'll just bring up that question or comment there from Fairy Geek Mother. And her wondering was, is it somewhere, will we see this in other places, other contact cards, like when you hover over someone in SharePoint? And I expect, in Teams meetings related to Teams, I expect it would be there. Delve, as long as it exists. Yeah, I think Delve is changing. I think that Delve is shifting now into the Microsoft feed. But at any rate, if it's not appearing in other services that have the profile card, we expect that it will eventually. So, okay, we have this option. It gets turned on. And then, really the guidance is here that, and this is it's quite can be kind of a sensitive subject for some because sometimes we're still learning about how best to refer to our colleagues and friends. But one very good suggestion here is that you leave the pronouns to be assigned by the person themselves. So it's not something that you would go through as an HR org or as an admin and go da 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 and put the different pronouns against people's names. it is a personal choice. So really, with the service turned on, a bit of change management here is that you make people aware of it if you're an organization that's going to turn on this feature, and you let people know it's an option now and here's how to do it. So there's a few great little articles down here that tell you how. Admins, that'll be all about how to turn it on as a service. And pronouns in your profile, let's just click in and just have a quick look. Does it have any screenshot of what that will look like? There we go. Right, so it'll be something that you can hover over your own card in Teams or in Outlook, and you'll have that ability to add pronouns. It'll be that plus sign. Let's see, we can add. We've got examples that we can pop in. So it's not like it's a drop-down box, okay? You can put your pronouns in. You can learn more about that, and I see that there's some good advice, like I said earlier, about not assigning pronouns for other people, but allowing it to be for the individual to do so. So that is rolling out. Let's scroll on up here. Yeah, rollout begins late February for targeted release users, and GA will roll out early March, expected to be completed late March. Daniel, tell us.
Yes.
Tell us about it's something else that we saw too. I think we need to sort of harken back and refresh our memory. What is this one about? About categories for meetings?
Take action. So this starts to take action, and it is the longest title for today's episode. Take action on meeting category insights in the Viva Insights app, in Teams, and on the web. Whew, MC 516906.
Pause. Take a breath, because that was quite.
That was a long one. Yeah. So if you'll remember back, and you may not, that's okay. I'll refresh your memory. Think of it as you're in an episode of a TV show and they do one of those, and it takes you back and they show you a previous episode.
Daniel?
Yes?
I've got to interject here. You said the previous message was the longest title that you were going to hear in the episode. Can you just take a deep breath and read this message which talked about this feature?
Oh my gosh.
Come on.
Okay, so in September, we talked about this on the show. This previous message, which is meeting category trends and details in the Viva Insights app, in Teams, and meeting category insights card in Digest email. Wow. So that one, which was I didn't even read the MC 434658. Wow. Back in September. So that, when we talked about this in September, it was about, hey, if you categorize your meetings in your calendar, then Insights, if you have a license, yes, this is a licensed thing, then it will take those categories and give you a report, basically showing you what kind of meetings you're having over the course of 3 months, a few weeks, and seeing what you have in the future. So you kind of get an idea of what those categories and understand how you're working, okay, and get some insights. This one for today is take action. Those two words are key, because previously when we talked about it in September, it was just, here's the information, do with it what you will. This message is all about bringing action to that information. So you're going to be able to view those meeting invites. You're going to be able to edit meeting invites within this experience, cancel meetings and appointments, decline meetings, wholesale on, depending upon what category they are, etc. And then take action on categorizations, be able to recategorize or categorize, as it were, on meetings. So that's great. All right, so that's the difference, right? That's the difference between this one and the one in September, is we're actually able to take action. Now, Daryl.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. I was looking at this and going, oh, that's cool. We're able to take action, which is good, because I think things like recategorization. Oh, I called it that on these meetings.
Okay.
Maybe I should have called it this.
Yep.
Right. Or I categorized, when I started off, I categorized it as category 1, when later on I started calling it category 3. I'm using those generic terms, but so fine, I can see that. But this whole idea of I can decline wholesale, like decline meetings and such. How is that?
I don't know.
Something.
I mean, okay. Before this update, great. You can come here and get an understanding of how you're spending your time. Mm-hmm. I do like the idea of being able to recategorize a meeting. And, they've got some interesting examples here, but a meeting doesn't have to just be one category. I mean, we've got one down here, which is a project kickoff. It's 5 categories. It's like, let's go nuts and create some really interesting, colorful looking demo. But you can do that. You could categorize, it makes sense in a consultancy to show when you're doing customer work or internal work, or whether it's chargeable or not. I don't think I would go through here and triage what meetings I'm going to attend or not, because the information I use is what else is in my calendar. Is this overlapping anything? Is it conflicting with anything? Have I left enough space around that meeting for me to be able to prepare for it? So I probably wouldn't use cancel, decline. I might use view, invite to drill into the detail, but I think the other two probably are a bit overkill. Yeah.
Yeah, and so one thing that you and I had talked about previously about this is for meetings. And so it was smart enough, what we were assuming, it was smart enough to go, hey, you have to have invitees for it to be a meeting, and therefore for categories to show up. Mm-hmm. One thing, though, that is interesting, if you'll go back to the message and go to the users, will be able to, it's right under, yes. The second bullet point says cancel meetings or appointments they organized.
Appointments?
So, appointments. Isn't an appointment just a non-meeting, which means not inviting someone else?
Yeah.
I mean,
you wouldn't invite your dentist to your appointment.
Or is this...
Make it a Teams meeting, by the way, so you didn't have to be there.
I don't want to interpret this wrongly, because this could be a slip up of
could be.
Word, right? It could be just a language problem, or they are just trying to be inclusive of all the types of quote unquote meetings that you would have. Okay. So I'm not trying to emphasize this too much, but personally, I want to be able to categorize my non-meetings, those that are placeholders on my calendar, and I'm going to give a perfect example of one here in a second, so that I can understand how I'm spending my time. I have been using the Viva Insights option. When I receive meeting invites, you can select to say, I want to book pre-time to prepare for this meeting. Okay? So that, if this meeting's happening, it's you mentioned kickoff. Okay? Maybe it's a kickoff invite for a project. I need to book time to prepare for this kickoff and to understand what we're doing before I come, so I come prepared. Well, I want to be able to categorize that pre-kickoff meeting but it's not a meeting, it's the preparing for the kickoff meeting. It's just me. I want to be able to say that is for project X or whatever. I want to be able to categorize that and capture that. So is this bullet saying that appointments will be included in this? Because it wasn't previously. It was pretty clear that it was just meetings. I don't know. I'd like to... It'd be nice to have some insights into that.
Well, I will say, as we look at this, that Insights is quite specific about what it considers as a meeting. When you look at the behavioral kind of information that comes out of Insights, whether it be meetings that you've attended or you've been late to, or ones that you've organized and that sort of stuff, a meeting is when someone else attends, not an appointment where you block time to do a task.
Right.
But I agree, it would be useful to have something similar to see where you're spending your time on tasks and categories of tasks. And so expand on that insights. I think we're saying we like it. We're unsure about the cancel and decline stuff, but we'd
Yeah.
also like something that would help us to categorize our time and see how we're
I
spending
think
it.
it would open up for those, and I know others that do that where they block time so they can actually get work done in their calendar.
That's
It
me.
would, yeah, it would be a huge wealth of information. I think very very helpful to say, oh, I've spent this much time on this much time every week preparing for meetings or for working on X. I just feel like it'd be such a treasure trove. So anyway, I'd like to see that. So if that's not what this is saying, please clarify the message. And if it is what you're saying, that it's not just meetings, then maybe clarify the message to make sure that that is very clear. But thank you so much, everyone, for putting up with and listening to my rantings on this. But I think it's a great feature coupled with what I was mentioning before about booking pre-time. Let's keep going, Darrell, and talk about something we talked about in the green room, the pre-show chat that we
Yep.
have on YouTube last week. But it is now a Message Center announcement. So let's talk about Yammer.
Yeah, yeah. Look, we're not going to rehash the news, so to speak. There is a lot of news around this in terms of features and content. But one key thing, as the message says, Yammer is evolving into Viva Engage. It's MC 514981. The message has been updated since it arrived. And I think the clarification has been in response to the community, or maybe the news, the media, putting a spin on it that Yammer is dead and long live Viva Engage, Viva la Viva Engage. It's a rebrand. Let's put it that way. It's a rebrand of a product that's been absorbed into Viva, and it's getting a much love, right? Much love in the sense of attention for building features for years. We saw very little change in Yammer. Now we're seeing a bunch of it, but it's been rebranded and brought into Viva Engage. What an appropriate name. It's all about engaging people. So this message is not really going into that in great detail of like what it's delivering, but it is talking more about what that rebrand will look like. That, as you can imagine, it's not just from day one, ta-da, everything is rebranded and you'll see the name everywhere, but it is a gradual process. So they outline this in the message to say what is happening. And think of all the different surface areas that you see Yammer and where it will need to change to engage. The first change that we had seen, of course, was the Communities app changed to Viva Engage. But it was confusing, right? You click through and maybe it would open up to the full web experience, and then there was Yammer, and you're like, huh, okay. And you could access Engage via the Teams mobile app, but then you also had the Yammer mobile app, so it was confusing. So, among other different surface areas, that's what's going to be changing over time. In March, we're going to see in the iOS and Android app of Yammer that you'll have this banner bit that will say Yammer has been renamed Engage, and then it will be renamed as Engage. You know, in some ways you kind of think, okay, great, we've got a banner there warning that it will happen, and then it will happen. In some ways, you kind of want to just make the change. But remember, we're tech people here on this show, watching this live stream, listening to this podcast. We're aware of these things. Potentially, we don't have change managers and people that can tell others about the change that's coming. So a little banner like this does help to guide people and soften the blow or the impact of the change. Might I say this too, Daniel? And I'll open it up for your thoughts. I'm actually glad to see the Yammer mobile app being rebranded as Engage, because
Okay.
I actually prefer that to the Engage app within Microsoft Teams. I think it's fully featured, works really well, and it's good to be able to, leave kind of that historical stigma behind and say this is the new platform of social experience and choice within Microsoft 365. It's called Viva Engage. Let's just call it Engage. And here it is. Full, rich mobile experience.
So you like it because it's features, or because the app is better, or you like it because you want to get rid of the name and start afresh, start anew?
Well,
Which
the
is
name's
it?
changing anyway. I like it because it is a simpler experience than going into an app within an app
Right.
on Teams Mobile.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm stepping off, or stepping onto a platform, a box, a soapbox, and now saying, we can put apps within apps,
Yeah.
but for most of us, that can be kind of a confusing experience, and if it's not done well, it can come across as kind of clunky.
I agree with
Um,
that. Yeah,
yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah, so there's other changes. The Yammer web app will also change. Um, there's going to be, no impact in the sense of the service will stop. It is just being rebranded. It is not dying. It is not dead. In
It's not dead.
one sense, I leaned into it with the description in our video saying Yammer is evolving, or perhaps it was natural selection that the Yammer app is now going to be Viva Engage. It's not dead. There was no. Let me see if I can find it. It's probably
Really?
one of the. Yeah, I have to. I have to. I have to.
You
Somewhere here.
sure?
Oh no,
Sure, you
what?
have
Yeah,
to.
yeah, 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 yeah. The great
Hmm.
Lorian Strand put it quite nicely. That it's a bit like this: Yammer, and then people saying Yammer is dead, and oh, Viva Engage. But I challenge that, Mr. Strand. I challenge that. It is actually the same identity. In fact, it is the very same person. That she has some Schrodinger's cat thing going on here, and she exists in two states or in two places at the same time. And Viva Engage is Yammer. Let's finish on that. Next message before he appears somewhere and responds.
Oh my goodness. Yes, let's take a turn, not a
Yep.
turn for the worse. Let take a turn on the topic here and get away from this as fast as possible. New OneDrive shared experience, and it's updated. MC514976. This message is about some additional features on the shared. I don't know what it's called. It's not called tab. It's the left-hand navigation in OneDrive. You have Home and My Files. We talked about Home previously, right? What that is, My Files and Shared. And then when you click there, you get the Shared with You, which is people have sent this to you or shared it with you, and then Shared by You, which is you have shared it out. Well, now this experience is going to be enhanced primarily by having these filter pills at the top, if you will, with folders, Office documents, PDF, being able to filter the selection of items to say, hey, I'm looking for a PowerPoint that someone shared with me. You can click that and filter that content, which is nice. And then you'll also get a new column called activity, which will show the activity, the latest thing that's happened to that document, which is pretty slick, I think, because I want to know at a quick glance at a document that was shared with me or I shared, probably more often this way, but I want to look at it and go, has anyone done anything since it's been shared or since the last time I looked at this, before I go in and open it up to see what's been done, right? So I can see that Daryl has edited that PDF or sorry, that PowerPoint. Okay, I want to go and look at it now to see what he did instead of going in there and saying, hey, have you updated this yet or whatever. I can get it at a quick glance. So this is rolling out late February to target a release mid-March ending there. And for standard release mid-March, and with a target of completed by mid-April of this year. So I like this change, Daryl. What do you think about this of improving this experience in the shared experience when I feel like we share things and it just goes into the nebula of the web and we often don't understand or get there's some idea of when people edit things. We get an email saying they've used the link for the first time, stuff like that. But the ongoing activity. Do you like that, and do you like this filtering option?
I like that it brings it all together. That is what has been shared with you or shared by you all in one place. It's not about which conversation, which person, which thing. So if we can get into that habit that I know we use search to find stuff or we're trying to relate it back to a conversation, but if we get into the habit of this is another way to search. What is the action? What is the thing we're looking for, and what was the nature or the activity around it? Someone shared it with me, or I shared it with someone. I like that we've had that for a while. What I do like to see, and I want it to be consistent, are those filters. In fact, I want them to be like the filters when we just go to the Office.com homepage. Sorry, Microsoft365.com homepage. Rub it in. That we can create our own filters. That we can, change things up a bit here. At the moment, it's a bit static. Maybe the next step is to have a bit more control.
We covered something very similar recently, right? That you couldn't change the filters. Was it OneDrive?
Yeah, I think it was.
I think it was. You couldn't change the filters. It was...
it was the My Files one.
Yeah, so very similar. Hey, OneDrive, how about getting on the bandwagon of us being able to add filters? Appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah. When's this changing, Daniel?
Soonish. So this is happening late February. So soonish for targeted release, and then mid-March it'll start for standard release.
Cool. Good habit to form. Use it.
Indeed.
All right.
Well, there has been some great chat going on in the chat room here on YouTube. So really want to say thank you everyone that's joined us and been really engaging and bringing even an enhanced experience for those. And if you catch the recording on YouTube, you can see that chat as well. You can take that in. Make sure if you're watching the recording, put in a comment on the video. Give us a rating on the audio podcast as well. We'd really appreciate that wherever you find podcast. Thank you so much.
Well, we'll see you again next week. Let's see what arrives between now and then. Get chatting about it too. It's really good to see. Phil Worrell, a couple of Andy. I think sometimes they'll drop observations in Twitter. So do go and find them on Twitter and see what they've got to say and engage them in conversation as well. But thank you again. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.